صدق الله العلي العظيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، سيما بقية الله في الأرضين. Dear brothers and sisters, respected elders, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's an honor and a pleasure to be speaking today, especially to the youth, and especially to those who are still in touch with the youths within. I'd like to start actually by thanking the organizers of this event for giving us this opportunity, and by thanking Brother Ahfad, who designed the poster for this event. And it just goes to show that you can actually do so much if you just focus your efforts onto getting creative when it comes to our technology today. And that just happens to be what we're going to be discussing today. Today, we're talking about the reality of jihad in light of modern technology. Okay, so first of all, the first thing that we're going to say is jihad. It's not something bad. It's a shame that I have to start by saying this and giving a little bit of a disclaimer, but that's the society that we live in, where jihad has been given so much negative press and it's been talked about in so many negative ways that unfortunately we've actually gone on the back foot, and we have to be defensive every time we talk about the concept of jihad, when in reality, the concept of jihad is actually a beautiful thing. What it actually is basically the vehicle through which you can reach your greatest potential. You, as a human being, through jihad, can actually reach your greatest potential. And without it, you won't ever reach your greatest potential. Since this entire series is about becoming the heroes of the future, jihad plays a pivotal role in that mission of creating heroes. How are you going to be a hero if you don't have an enemy to confront? Every hero, and just picture it right now, wherever you are listening to my voice, think about a hero, whether it's fictional, whether it's a real hero. You'll notice that that hero has physical enemies that he has to face, and he has internal struggles as well. The demons within, whether it's jealousy, whether it's pride, arrogance, whether it's hatred. And the way in which he becomes a hero is through confronting and overcoming those enemies, internal and external. Now, we're going to illustrate for you this struggle in a well-known hadith, which I'm sure all of you have heard, but let's remind ourselves of this hadith and explore the themes presented by this hadith today, inshallah. So the hadith basically presents for us the Muslims returning from a battlefield. A side note, guys, all of the battles that took place before the passing away of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam were all battles in which we were defending ourselves. So Islam is not a religion which teaches us to go and attack others, but rather that it teaches us to defend ourselves when we are attacked. We'll come back to that point later on in the lecture. But the Holy Prophet was addressing these brave Muslims who had just returned from the battlefield. And the Holy Prophet told them, "O Muslims, congratulations, you've just completed the smaller jihad." And they turned and they said, "Ya Rasulullah, what is the greater jihad? If we've just, we've been fighting, we've been in the battlefield, we're tired from holding a shield in one hand, a sword in the other hand. And you're telling us that this was only the smaller jihad? What's the greater jihad then?" The Holy Prophet told them, the greater jihad is the jihad of the nafs, the internal battle. Now, in Islam, there is a balance. And whenever you neglect one or the other, you're going to fall out of balance. So there is a smaller jihad, which is about confronting the enemies, and there is a greater jihad as well, which is the battle within. Whenever you see somebody neglecting either the smaller jihad or the greater jihad, you'll notice that they become unbalanced Muslims. And those are the ones who are actually taking extremes. Okay, now let's go to the Quran. Let's see what the Quran illustrates for us when it comes to being a Muslim and being a believer. Because believe it or not, guys, there's actually a difference. Not every Muslim is a believer, a mu'min. And the Quran tells us very clearly, very explicitly, what you have to do in order to qualify as a believer. As of yet, we're not talking about being a Shia. We're not talking about somebody who is, an elite soldier of Imam Mahdi. No, no, no. We're talking about being a believer. First, we got to believe, right? So the Holy Quran says, وَقَالَتِ الْأَعْرَابُ آمَنَّا قُلْ لَمْ تُؤْمِنُوا وَلَكِنْ قُولُوا أَسْلَمْنَا. The desert Arabs came to the Holy Prophet and they said, we believe, we are mu'mineen. Allah commands the Holy Prophet to tell those people, قُلْ لَمْ تُؤْمِنُوا وَلَكِنْ قُولُوا أَسْلَمْنَا. Don't say that you have believed, but say that you are Muslims. You've submitted. You're not believers yet. وَلَمَّا يَدْخُلِ الْإِيمَانَ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. And faith, Iman, has not yet entered your hearts. Wow. Just think about that for a moment. Guys, you can intellectually look at Islam and you realize that it is the right path and you submit to the will of Allah. You're still only a Muslim. And by the way, this isn't that hard if you think about it, because Islam is so logical and it speaks to the fitrah that if it was presented properly to anybody in the world, pretty much all people would accept it. Okay, so the next verse illustrates for us what you have to do to be a mu'min. And it says, إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله ثم لم يرتابوا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله. Only those are believers who believe in Allah and the Messenger, then they show no doubts and they do jihad. They strive in the way of Allah with their properties and their selves. Jihad is the key. With this key, you will go from being a mere Muslim to being a mu'min, a believer. And without this key, you will never get through that door of actually believing. And remember, the verse is saying, جَاهَدُوا بِأَمْوَالِهِمْ وَأَنفُسِهِمْ. They strive with their properties and with their selves. Meaning that we can't limit this striving to just the greater jihad. No, 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 no. It's actually the smaller jihad as well. Confronting the enemies in the battlefield is what will make us into believers. And consider this, going back to the hadith, because often we say this hadith about the smaller jihad and the greater jihad, but we don't consider this. The people that the Holy Prophet is addressing are people who have done the smaller jihad. Meaning that, if we just think about it for a moment, perhaps the smaller jihad is a prerequisite to the greater jihad. Meaning the greater jihad doesn't really occur until you do the smaller jihad. We'll explore this theme a little bit more as the discussion goes on. Now, what does this mean? Am I saying that if you want to be a believer, is the Quran, in fact, telling us that if you want to be a believer, now you're going to have to go to the physical battlefield and fight physically with guns and swords like the brave soldiers are doing out there, defending the shrine of Sayyidah Zainab, Salamun alayha, from the likes of ISIS, Daesh terrorists, or, go and fight the American troops in Iraq, etc., etc. Well, look, there isn't only the military battlefield. That's what we have to understand. When it comes to jihad al-sughra, the smaller jihad, it's not only about the physical battlefield. No. because there's other battlefields too. There is the military battlefield with swords and guns and etc. But there's also the economic battlefield. The economic battlefield, think about it. Are we doing jihad on the economic battlefield? Are we, for instance, boycotting Israel? Are we doing our best to support those oppressed people who are who are dying of starvation in Yemen and other places? Are we helping the oppressed as best we can? Are we doing the best that we can to destabilize and weaken the taghuti and the tyrannical systems? And at the same time, are we doing our best financially to aid and support the systems which are serving the cause of Imam Mahdi? Are we paying our khums? So all of this is part of the economic battlefield. And then there is the ideological battlefield, the soft war. And it's the ideological battlefield which we're going to be focusing on today. And that brings us on to jihad in light of modern technology. Right. The first thing that we have to understand is a war is happening. There is a constant battle from the day Adam was sent upon this earth. There has been a struggle and a battle between good and evil. And we really need to understand that and what role we are playing within that battle of good and evil. There are good people on earth and there are evil people on earth. There are good people and jinns on earth and there are good people and jinns on earth. And they are constantly battling it out. Where do we stand in this battle between good and evil? Okay, so what I'd like you to consider is your technology today, the technology that you have access to, whether it's your laptop or your whatever technology you have. And I'd like to focus on the phone in your pocket. And if you're watching this right now on your phone, or if you're watching this on your laptop, this technology, this phone of yours is your sword and your shield. It is your tool that you can use to engage in the soft war. And through this battle, you will become a better human being and you will become, inshallah, a mu'min, a believer. And you will recognize that through the greater jihad, you can actually, through the the smaller jihad, you can actually become a greater person and you can maximize your potential. Okay. So when it comes to the soft war, Imam Khamenei has been talking about this for at least a decade. And one of the things that he says to illustrate the significance of the ideological battlefield in the soft war and to show how the soft war is even more important than the military battlefield and the economic battlefield is that he illustrates this kind of this analogy. He gives us this metaphor. He says that, look, in the physical battlefield, in the military battlefield, when the enemy attacks us, it's horrible. You know, limbs get severed. There's blood on the ground. You know, blood gets spilt and horrible things happen. But souls ascend to heaven. Our brave soldiers out there, and the Quran says to us, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يَرْزُقُونَ. Do not suppose those who are slain in the way of Allah as dead. No, they are alive and they are being sustained with their Lord. So in the physical battlefield, when the enemy attacks us, yes, it looks gruesome, but souls are ascending to heaven. But in the ideological battlefield, in the soft war, bodies get fat, but souls descend to hell. That's how significant the ideological battlefield is. And you have a role to play in that. Okay. When it comes to the soft war as well, Imam Khamenei has said, look, fire at will. And there is so much you could be doing if you recognize yourself as being an active participant and member of the resistance, of the global resistance, and a supporter of Islam. Whenever you see any kind of Islamophobia taking place, whenever you see anybody attacking in Islam, whenever you see Islam being insulted, false information being spread, ask yourself, are you expecting somebody else to come and clean up that mess? Or are you thinking, hey, I need to try to actually help in this battle and fight back against this? Fire at will. Are you engaging in it? See, Islam didn't just come to say, hey, you know what? You're going to wait for the prophets and imams to sort the mess of the world out. No, Islam came to teach us to fight back and actually feel a sense of responsibility for the deen. Now, you have to ask yourself, are you feeling a sense of responsibility for this religion whenever you're seeing it attacked? Now, on a daily basis, well, not on a daily basis, but I can see at least bi-weekly, I get messages on Twitter, on Facebook, and online, just from brothers and sisters who message me and they say, oh, I just came across a new YouTube channel which is attacking Islam. Or this video is being circulated and they're spreading false information about Islam. And can you do something about it? And my reply is usually the same. And I say, look, I'm too busy right now. Can you do it? Why don't you give it a go? And they always say, well, I think you're more qualified and you can do it better. Well, look, there is a lot that needs to be done, a lot. And the knowledge that you need in order to confront these issues, Allah has already given it to you. Think about it. If you know that something is wrong, then you also know Allah has also given you the tools to confront that problem. If you see any propaganda that is being done against Islam, you have a responsibility to actually fight back. And you have the ability to fight back. And if you don't, Allah will give it to you when you have the intention to fight back. In tansurullaha yansurukum wa yuthabbit aqdamakum. If you help the cause of Allah, Allah will help you. Have no doubts about it, guys. This is the Quran speaking, saying if you help the cause of Allah, Allah will help you. You should believe in that. Now, I want to give you a practical example of this. Many of us might be aware of the Netflix series, The Messiah, which was obvious propaganda being spread in this time. Imagine if the series was still being viewed by people, how many minds it would affect and how many people it would actually brainwash and indoctrinate in this pivotal era where we are getting closer to the Dhuhur and the Qiyam of Imam Mahdi. The Messiah series was released by the enemy and it was clearly spreading propaganda so that when the real Dhuhur happens, people will be confused about it and start to doubt, is this actually the Dhuhur or is this an imposter? Or worse, when the Dajjal comes, people will start to think that this is actually the Mahdi when it's not. What did the Muslims do? My brother, Precursor, who's one of the most popular YouTubers on YouTube, he and others created a campaign and they started to fight back. Ideologically, this is the soft war. And they started to say, bring this series down. This is insulting the izzah of so many Muslims and you need to bring it down. And Precursor was actually highlighted by the news as well. And they said that, look, he said, if you don't bring this series down, I will tell all of my subscribers to cancel their Netflix subscription. And guess what happened, guys? They pulled the series. They canceled the series. You see, we actually have a lot more power and influence as Muslims than the enemy wants us to think we do. And if we only embrace our own power, we'll see that we can not only confront the enemies, but we can actually scare the enemies and make the world a much better place. And this applies everywhere, whether it's, false propaganda against Islam in general, or whether it's pushing LGBT issues, whether it's indoctrinating our views in schools, etc., etc. We have the ability to change the policies that are being implemented on us if we only realize it and we only inspire a sense of resistance and jihad within ourselves. Now, technology is an opportunity, guys. It's a huge, huge opportunity. And basically what Allah has said to you and what Allah has done is he said, right, I am going to give you the world at your fingertips. At the click of a button, you can send a message potentially to the entire world. With the click of a button, you can share the truth with the world. Since the topic right now is jihad, I want to include this idea that, look, there are many forms of jihad. There's the military battle, there's the economic battlefield, and there's the ideological battlefield. Somebody came to the Holy Prophet and asked him, Ya Rasulullah, what is the best form of jihad? And the Holy Prophet replied, Kalimatun haqqin inda sultanin ja'ir. The best form of jihad is to speak a word of truth, of justice, in the face of a tyrannical leader. So if you want to do jihad, if you want to traverse and stop being just an average Joe Muslim, you want to actually be a mu'min, then do jihad in the best of ways and speak a word of justice and truth in the face of the tyrants. Now, while technology is a massive blessing, sometimes what happens is we don't know how to engage with it in a way that will be both effective and won't cause our families to just fall apart and cause arguments to happen, because the technology that we have in our pockets, as well as being a great opportunity, is also a huge threat. And what it can do is, it also opens up the world of sins for us. There's a heck of a lot of sins that we can engage with through technology. And also what it does is, if we're too much engaged in it, it can create fitna within the families and within the communities, and it can be used for a great deal of harm as well. So I wanted to give just 3 points of advice when it comes to engaging with technology. The first of them is this: be balanced, right? And by the way, balanced might not mean what you think it means. For one person, balance might mean, let's just spend an hour with social media. For another person, it might mean several hours. No, let's go back to the Quran and see what the Quran says when it comes to being balanced and also taking up that big fight, taking up those struggles, whether it's small policies in our communities, whether it's influencing others, whether it's creating organizations to aid and strengthen the cause of Islam wherever we are. We have to do it in a way where it doesn't cause fitna. Okay, so the Holy Quran tells us, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. O you who believe, save yourselves and your families from the fire. That's right. The Quran is emphasizing this idea that when you're doing something for the sake of Allah, we have to do it together as families. Okay, so sometimes what happens is the husband, for example, understands completely. He understands totally. So he's on the path. He's revolutionary. He's understood that the Mahdi is going to return soon. And so he starts going forward, but the wife gets left behind. The kids get left behind. And sometimes the reverse happens. Sometimes the wife, she understands, she's gone ahead. She wants to confront the enemies, but then the husband's like, hold. He's on the couch. He's like, hey, come on, slow down. I don't understand what's happening right now. I think you're being a bit too fast. In these situations, the Quran is saying, look, qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. Sometimes, guys, the husband has to slow down so that he can pick up his wife and kids and go together. Sometimes the wife has to slow down so that she can pick up the husband and kids and keep moving forward. The idea and the goal and the ambition is to keep moving forward, but to do it together. Remember, it's not about the results. Allah doesn't care about the results. He just wants the journey of yours to go correctly. He wants the journey of life, your journey of life, to be done in the perfect way. Now, for those of you who aren't married, and this applies to everybody, but you guys who aren't married yet, you need to really strive before any, I don't want to say it in a negative way, because Islam has emphasized such a great deal on getting married, and that is part of the struggle. It is completing half your deen, and if you get married in your youth, it is completing like 2/3 of your religion. You need to do that. But at the same time, you need to spend your youth in the best possible way. Do jihad, fight against the enemy, internal and external. The Quran says, وَجَاهَدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ. Do jihad, strive in the way of Allah, a striving which is worthy of Allah. That's the kind of striving you need to do. Throw yourself out there, fight. Come on, Allah wants you to be the best that you can be. How are you going to prove yourself if you don't confront the enemy? Think of a hero. Try to think of a superhero. Try to think of any hero who existed in reality, whether it is like historical figures or like prophetical figures. You can't have Musa without Fir'aun. You can't have Ibrahim without Nimrud. You can't have Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi without the Quraysh and the hypocrites. Look, all of these things exist, the binary opposites, the black and the white of life, the dark and the light, the good and the evil, the yin and the yang, so that you can embrace it entirely and become who you were given the potential to be. So strive in the way of Allah with the striving which is worthy of Him. Haqqa jihadi. Now, there's another concept which we have to clear. Remember yesterday we talked about all these mottos that have been shared around, especially in the West, which tell us to, various things. Now, there's one which you've all heard, and it's this motto: take it easy. Take it easy. How many times have we heard that? Take it easy. Even sometimes when we ask people for advice, I've committed a sin, I really want to compensate for it. What do I do? Take it easy. Look, while there may be a basis for this, just generally speaking, the Quran, Islam, the Ahlul Bayt don't tell us to take it easy. Life isn't about taking it easy. And anybody who tells you this is actually, in a way, being a little bit dishonest with you, because you're not going to be better if you take that route, if you try to take it easy. Think about anybody who has made any kind of progress in their life, even the most trivial of examples. Think about a professional bodybuilder. He doesn't get to where he is without enduring pains and hardships. Anybody, a professional sports, I mean, that's the best example that you can think of, because it's just so obvious that you have to put in effort. And it's through that effort that you will become better and you will find ease. That's why the Quran says, فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. Surely with difficulty is ease. Look, Allah isn't telling us to fast in the holy month of Ramadan because He wants to put unnecessary pressures on us. No, He doesn't tell us to do jihad similarly in any way, whether it's the external or internal jihad, because He wants unnecessary pains to be on us. No, He wants us to grow. And it's through difficulty that we grow, that we find that ease. If you spend, for example, your strength and your energy studying hard, at the end of it, you will find ease. But anybody who tells you to take life easy, look, life is a golden opportunity. Allah wants you. He doesn't need anything from you. He wants you to do it, because if you do it, it will be good for you. In ahsantum, ahsantum li anfusikum. If you do good, it's good for yourself. Okay, so this is the idea of being balanced. It's not what you think it's about. Being balanced means pushing yourself, exerting yourself to the best of your ability, but doing it together. And that's the first thing. The second thing is, when you engage with technology and when you make a decision to do jihad and you see, okay, there's lots of social ills that exist and we need to fight these social ills and we need to fight all the Islamophobia that exists, we need to address all these issues. But in order to do that, we need to have some sort of power and existence out there. You'll realize that, okay, you need to have objectives. And this is the second thing. You need to have objectives. State your objectives clearly and stick to them. The Quran tells us, فَإِذَا زَعَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. So when you've made your decision, whatever that decision may be, have trust in Allah. You've made that decision now, and you've made it for the right reasons, inshallah, have trust in Allah. See where He takes you. Often these things pop into our minds. Like, you might think to yourself, okay, I want to have a significant impact out there. I want to engage in the soft war, but I need to get this message out to as many people as possible. In order to get that message out to as many people as possible, I need to grow my audience. But if I grow my audience, am I just doing it for my nafs? Am I doing it for myself? And we have to ask ourselves these questions constantly. Otherwise, it's very dangerous. We could fall into a pit hole. The shaitan could trick us into thinking that we're doing something for the sake of Allah, but we're actually not. So we need to ask these questions. But at the same time, look, the Quran says, وَعِدُّوا لَهُمْ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ وَمِن رِبَاطِ الْخَيْلِ تُرْهِبُونَ بِهِمْ عَدُوَّ اللَّهِ وَعَدُوَّكُمْ. It says, gather whatever you can of strength and horses, so that you may terrify Allah's enemy, وَعَدُوَّكُمْ, and your enemy. Right? Gather that strength, prepare whatever you can in the path of this jihad, of, on the physical battlefield, whatever you can of like physical forces and, physical horses. In today's time, it would be tanks and stuff. But when it comes to the social media, the soft war, it means prepare your organizations, prepare the people, prepare your posters, your whatever you have. Now, guys, you have so much, I want to use a word other than potential. Think about the skills and the talents that Allah has given you, whether it's artistic talents. You can write, you can paint, you can do so many different things. You can speak, you can do public speaking. If you can't do that, you might have managerial skills. You might be able to organize people and structures to aid in the cause of Islam. All of this is preparing that so that you can do jihad in His way. And Allah is telling you to do that very clearly in the Quran. And He's telling you that if you do that, then and only then will you be a mu'min. إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله ثم لم يرتابوا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله. Only those are believers who believe in Allah and the Messenger, then they do not doubt, and they do jihad in His way. With their properties and their selves. Okay, so that's the second thing. Have your objectives. Think to yourself, I want to have this many views by this much time. I want to have this many people participating in this event by a certain time. Have those objectives, stick to them, trust in Allah, and stick to it. And just quickly, again, I want to repeat, it's not about what you accomplish physically. It's about the journey. Allah will not ask you about what you accomplished. Rather, He will ask you about how much you tried. So that's the second thing. The third thing is don't waste time. And we're going to end with this and open up for question answers, inshallah. Don't waste time. Allah has given you a tremendous opportunity, right? And there's so many youths out there who spend their time getting bored. Boredom is a problem, guys. How can you get bored? A person who has a jihadi spirit will never get bored. You know why? Because a person who has recognized that he has a role to play and he needs to do jihad just can't get bored. Every moment of his time will be spent in improving himself and preparing everything that he can. He realizes that he has a real physical enemy as well as an internal enemy, and he will become completely busy fighting both those enemies. Now, when it comes to wasting time, there is a beautiful concept in Islam, which unfortunately just isn't discussed that much. And I'm not sure why, but it's this concept of إِنَّمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا لَعِبٌ وَلَهُ. Surely the life of this world is nothing but a sport and play. And that's all it is. It's just a waste of time. It's just لَعِبٌ وَلَهُ. That's it. It's just... There are so many things that we do, which, whether it's video games, whether it's just watching random videos one after another, and that's the way that social media works, by the way. Once you start watching, you're scrolling. You are just scrolling. Oh, here's another meme. I'll like this. I'll like that. It just goes on. It is infinite. Infinite. It won't stop. And it can keep you engaged so much that you forget that your enemy is there. Inna shaitan. شيطان لكم عدو فَاتَّخَذُوهُ عَدُوًّا. Surely shaitan is your enemy. So take him as your enemy. Allah is reminding you that the shaitan exists. Don't forget. He will trick you. One of the hadith that we have, it says, shaitan will trick you. One of the tricks that he plays is that he will delay your repentance. He'll make you think, I've got plenty of time. This is a month of Ramadan where repentance is accepted. Are we using that opportunity? Now, la'ibun wa lahu. There are so many things. I'm not talking about haram things. I'm just talking about those things that we do to pass time. And they're actually called pastimes. We're just passing time. Why? If we cut those things out of our lives completely, we'll notice something really, really fascinating. Number one, we'll actually realize we're not bored. We thought we'd be bored, but we're actually not bored. And then number two, the thing that we'll realize is we actually have a lot more time than we had initially thought. And you will automatically start to fill that time with things which are useful. Now, yeah, spend your time reading, definitely. Use your phone. It is your sword. It is your weapon. If you don't have a Quran app, I don't know what you're doing with your phone. Yes, you can use it to speak to people, although usually we don't even use it for that anymore that much. But we can use this to hear what Allah wants us to hear. Think about that. Quran app. Get a good Quran app. And it's not just that. There's so much information out there, so much knowledge out there, and it's like it's screaming. It's just waiting for you to discover it. There is a well-known hadith from the Ahlul Bayt. They teach us knowledge is the lost property of the believer. He should strive to get it back. It's yours, and it's waiting for you to claim it, whether it's scientific knowledge, whether it's biology, chemistry, whether it's just random facts. Whatever time you spend, inshallah, improving yourself in physically, mentally, and spiritually is time which Allah will be pleased with, inshallah, on the Day of Judgment. You'll be able to say, Ya Allah, I spent this time working out. I spent this time researching what kinds of foods would help our family to be more healthy. I spent this time to, finding out whether what the mainstream media is telling us is true or not. And the best thing is I spent this time, Ya Allah, doing jihad in your way, foiling the plots of the enemy. Whenever I saw Islamophobia taking place, I didn't say, oh, it's somebody else's job to handle. No, I did the research and I started to share that information with others in whatever capacity I could. Ya Allah, I saw that people are attacking Islam, they're attacking the hijab, and I created a masterpiece, or at least what I could do, of artwork which strengthened the cause of Islam and made Islam look beautiful while the enemies were trying to make Islam look ugly. Do it and you'll see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of his mercy, has given you a vast amount of potential. Become the officers of the soft war. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for listening and ask you to give a loud and boisterous salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wherever you are. And I'd ask you all as well to, if anybody would like to sponsor this event, I've been asked by the Honorable management at Lady Fatimah to ask anybody out there if you would like to sponsor this event and you'd like people to give Surah Fatiha in the name of your marhumin, please do approach the organizers. Inshallah, you can send me a message, or you can send Sister Zeenat a message, or you can send a public message right now, and they'll get back to you, inshallah. And with that, I know I went a little bit over my time. I hope you can forgive me, guys, but I'd like to open up for question and answers now. Don't hold back. God bless you, and let's recite a Surah Fatiha for all of the mu'mineen, inshallah. Bismillah. Okay, so I'm going to start reading these comments now. Okay, I'm going to answer this because the brothers asked it before. Muzaffar, what do you want to specialize in for Hausa studies? Brother, I honestly don't know whether it's philosophy or fiqh or modern media. I don't know. I really don't know yet. I like to keep my options open. Alhamdulillah. Okay, if you want, and if you see, okay. Download Quran English on App Store. Yeah, that's a really good one. That's a really good one. Also, if you type in Quran word by word, that's a really good Quran app, because you can actually click on the word itself and it will give you what that particular word means. It is beautifully presented. I always debate Islamophobes, says the glory of religion. I always debate Islamophobes, anti-theists, the nawasib, and ignorant people on Twitter and Reddit. I'm doing my part. Really good, brother. Ahsantum. Do it. Just remember also, be careful which battles you fight. Sometimes we end up wasting time. I'm not saying that you're wasting time, but just be a little bit careful of that as well. We don't want to fall into our time of just always being on media, you know. It becomes like, you know, the whack-a-mole game, when you're just hitting the moles down over and over again. You don't want to do that. You want to sometimes take a step back, take a breath, and take a big shot at the enemy, and so that you can clarify things once and for all. Irshad Ahmed says, very true, technology gives opportunity to put forward our point of view and share our talent. At the same time, it also challenges nepotism, inbreeding, and fake propaganda. Okay. We have a hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. I'll just read that out for you guys. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi salam of God dispatched a contingent of the army. Yes, this is the hadith, ahsantum, about the smaller and greater jihad. All right, I'm not seeing any questions. Brother Muzaffar, how can I attack and refute LGBT, the root of all the mainstream immorality, without getting censored and taken down? Whoa, that is a good question. All right, let's try to take that question. Yeah, the brother asked a really good question. So when it comes to LGBT issues, we have two issues here. First of all, you get backlash. And unfortunately, what we have to understand when it comes to any issue like LGBT or any social issue which is actually affecting our youths, we see that our youths are actually, and our adults as well, are getting confused. It becomes a duty of, first of all, the leaders of Islam. And as we said, the leaders of Islam are first and foremost the scholars. We have the hadith from Imam Ali alayhi salam where he says the rulers of the people are actually the ulama, the hakim over people. It's meant to be their duty, but I think we all need to start feeling this sense of duty now, where we feel responsible for Islam wherever we see it getting attacked. Now, LGBT is one of those central fundamental issues that we're being faced with today, and we need to find a way to confront it en masse. One thing that I would like to say about it is, look, we are not alone. Don't think that we are alone as Muslims who oppose our children being taught LGBT issues in school and stuff. No, there are Christians, tons of Christians who are actually, they're repulsed by it, but they don't feel like they can fight back against it. Then there's Jewish communities as well. They don't like it either. Then even non-Muslim and non-religious people, you find lots of these people who might not express it publicly, but they are opposed to the idea because it is abhorrent. It is disgusting in and of itself, the idea of LGBT. And society going in that direction is just horrible. How do we confront it without being blocked? Well, the first thing I'd say is you can't. You will get blocked. The thing is, when you get blocked, you just need to create another account and keep going. And whenever somebody gets blocked, we usually say that that person is a digital martyr. And we've had loads. And whenever that happens to somebody, we actually salute them and we say, God bless you. I'm blocked from Facebook, guys. If anybody's trying to message me on Facebook, I'm not ignoring you. I'm blocked on Facebook. So that's the first thing. You will get blocked, you will get harassed, you will get persecuted. And thank you for mentioning this, because I want to give you this example. I wanted to do it in the previous sessions, but I didn't get a chance. There is a sister called Sister Dr. She's actually Dr. Kate Godfrey Fawcett. She is a psychologist. And what she did is she came to us with this research upon which we based the Machination series. I don't know if any of you are aware of the Machination series. And what we did is we explored these themes and we exposed a lot of the agenda of it's called the sexual revolution. Just like we have the Islamic revolution on one side, we have the sexual revolution on the other side. It has its own ideologies and they're going head to head basically when it comes to social issues. And the sister came to us with the research and she approached Islamic Pulse and she said, look, nobody else is willing to give this coverage. Are you guys willing to do it? We said to her, look, sister, we can take your research, but before we do this, we have to warn you that when you embark on this journey, because it's such a revolutionary journey, you're going to get attacked. They might attack you. They might attack your family. They're going to take away your job. They're going to harass you on mainstream media. First, they'll try to ignore you. Then they'll try to laugh at you. Then they'll try to attack you. And they might even kill you, by the way. And we said this to her. The sister, God bless her, actually said, yeah, I know. And I'm going to do it anyway. This, by the way, this, brothers and sisters, respected elders, is what it means to be a follower of Sayyida Zainab. This is what it means to be a follower of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, where you are willing to make sacrifices for the sake of the truth. Unfortunately, she didn't get much support from the Shia community, even though it was dealing with something which is directly affecting our kids. And look, if they have managed to just 1967, I believe. It's just around 50 years ago. In the UK, it was illegal. The homosexual act was illegal and you would be prosecuted for it. In just 1 or 2 generations, look how much society has changed. There was no resistance. If we do not have any resistance, 50 years from now, the world that our children and our children's children will inherit will be horrible, and it will be our fault. وَمَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. This is why we have to take this idea of jihad on the ideological battlefield, the soft war, very seriously. It's a reality, guys. Okay, I'm going to take another question. I think some more have come in. Is it haram to be gay? It is haram to perform the gay act. Absolutely, yes. See, and this, I don't want to mention who asked this question. I don't want the brother to get offended. Either, because it's a good question. And actually, guys, the silliest question is the question that you don't ask. So I'm not mocking him in any way, but I just want to make this very clear. This is where we've reached, where Muslims themselves are so confused that they don't know whether it's haram or not. Because when something becomes so pushed by the enemy and their agenda, we take a back foot. We don't show any resistance. And because of that, people start to get confused. We don't talk about it anymore. As scholars of the religion, we have to be braver now. Okay, I'm going to see if we can change the subject a little bit. Brother Muzaffar, do you think there needs to be more effort from the Muslim community to refute neo-atheist arguments? There seems to be a lot of effort from our Christian brothers and sisters in this regard. Absolutely. One of the beauties of Islam, which you won't find in any other religion, especially and particularly the Shia school of thought, is the fact that we are commanded to intellectually confront all ideas. And you have to first accept it with your mind before you believe in it. Islam is the only religion which says to do that. First accept it with your mind, then believe in it. You're not allowed to just believe in things without actually intellectually endorsing it and actually recognizing it to be the truth. That's why we have so many people in the community who just when you ask them how many gods do you worship, they say one, but they don't know what that actually means. It hasn't actually affected or impacted their life. If you say that that person believes in two gods, does it actually change anything in their lives? Not really, because they haven't really contemplated about it. Absolutely, absolutely. If you see Christians doing something, if you see people of other religions doing something, and they're doing it better than us, it's a disgrace. Muslims should be first on the scene to prove that Allah is one and to prove that all of this is a reality, because we have the best and most beautiful arguments which appeal to the fitrah. I'd like to ask the brothers and sisters and respected elders who are listening right now this question. Why is there hardly any tabligh taking place, especially from the Shia community? Why? You'll notice all those people who are out there spreading Islam are not even Sunni brothers, by the way. It's actually a lot heavily, it's just the Takfiri Wahhabis, and their version of Islam is going out. Why? Why are we allowing that to happen? Meanwhile, we're just pretty much sitting at home. Well, I mean, right now is a different situation because we're in lockdown and stuff. But I'm saying generally, why are we so ashamed of our religion that we're not sharing it with people? We should be so comfortable with our deen, and we should recognize it to be so beautiful that if anybody comes and asks us a question, we're ready to answer it. I'll tell you a quick personal story from my own life, right? When it came, in my school, I was the joker of the class, right? I was the naughty kid, and I didn't take anything seriously. Don't take me as a role model. Any of the brothers who are younger, don't take me as a role model at all. You should take your studies very seriously, go for it. But I'm just telling you that what it was like for me. But when it came to anything to do with Islam, I got this spirit inside me and this energy where I was like, hold on a moment, what you just said is incorrect. I have to tell you why you're incorrect and teach you what Islam actually says. And I'm sure many of the brothers and sisters out there who go to school or even in the workplace, you've encountered similar things where somebody says something and you're like, hold on a moment, no, you've misunderstood. Let me explain it to you. And you explain it to them. Okay. And when you explain it to them, you actually find something beautiful. They understand and they agree. And they're like, yeah, that makes sense. Through this, you will grow. Allah is growing you. And if you don't do it, by the way, there's many times where you feel ashamed and you're like, I'm not going to say anything. I might get attacked. If you do that, it will just bother you. It will just bother you. You won't be able to sleep. You'll be thinking about it all the time. And you'll be like, why? Years from now, that memory will pop back into your head and you'll be like, why didn't I do it? This regret will stay with you. Trust me, do jihad, spread the truth, teach them what's right, because you'll see very soon you're going to see the masses are going to start coming towards Islam. The masses. So sorry, but what was the question again? I think I've gone off topic. Yeah, the point is, yes, you should be. If you see atheist arguments, they are so weak. They're so weak. They're like sitting ducks. Go and fire at them and you'll see that you can prove logically everything that Islam is saying. And through this, you will actually grow. Okay, so sister says, Salams, how was the Messiah show propaganda and what was shown in the show? Just very quickly, it was basically showing that this guy appears. I mean, you can go look it up on the internet. It's very clear. It was showing that this guy comes and all the people in the world get attracted to him. And then it asks the question, is he the real thing or is he a fake? And that was basically it. And remember before we were talking about the media and we were saying that one of the things that the media does, it does good things, it does bad things, and the ugly things that it does is defines what is good and what is evil. The fact that they are defining what the Mahdi is extremely dangerous in today's age, especially as we get closer to the Dhuhr. It's very dangerous. But yeah, I mean, look it up, see what the kind of things that they were doing. Okay. And I think I'll take one more question and we'll end it here. Okay, so sister asks, to be a soft war officer, we have to always be aware. How can one become aware of what's happening? How to distinguish between right and wrong? Okay. You're right. As an officer of the soft war, when you're engaging out there, you need to be aware of what's happening, and you need to have, you need to know what you're talking about as well. You're right. And that's why we've actually done a series which we're actually doing on a weekly basis called a survival kit for the times ahead. And in there, we actually highlight 7 things which you have to do in order to be prepared for the times ahead. And I can't remember which book I've actually taken those notes down in, but there are 7 things that I've highlighted in there, and I'll just quickly go through the list with you. One of them is to, I can't find my notes right now, but what I'll say is, I'll say what I can remember from the top of my head. I thought it out quite a bit, but anyway, the first thing is get attached to the Quran now, not later, now. That's why it's so important for you to have the Quran up on your phone, because you need to be engaging with the Quran every free moment that you get, every time that you feel like it. If you're waiting for something to be cooking in the microwave, if you're waiting for your bus to arrive, if you're waiting for a video to load up on your screen, go onto the Quran, just see what message Allah has for you at that precise moment. Get familiar with the Quran and realize that when you open the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking directly with you. Not with this, but with this. That's the first thing. The second thing is get connected to the leader, Imam Sayyid Ali Khamenei. He is the leader when it comes to socio-political affairs in the world today. And look at what he's saying about the world, about the universe around us, about the socio-political climate, what directions we should take, these kinds of things. Keep connected, stay connected to him. And you can do that by going on to khamenei.ir online and just generally sharing information with each other in regards to him. The third thing is to stay together, stay united. The fourth thing, okay, I can't remember the fourth thing, but there is another thing as well that we need to do. Be aware of what's happening just through mainstream news. See what the mainstream is saying, and then see what our news organizations are saying as well. Look at all of them. Never stick to one news organization. Never just stick to the BBC or the CNN. They all lie. They lie a heck of a lot, and you need to be aware of that. Just one thing, sorry, before I go, because I have to go now, sorry guys, but one final thing. Before I came to the Halza, I asked a scholar in London, and I said to him, listen, I'm thinking of going to Halza. And he said, why? And just so you know, Sheikh Hanif, who you can connect to, God bless him. Sheikh Hanif, I said to him, listen, man, I want to serve my community. There's so many bad things happening. I want to be able to address them. He said, you don't need to go to Halza, man. He's got a Jamaican accent. You don't need to go to Halza. I was like, why? Like, I need to gain knowledge. And he looked at me and he said, the only knowledge that you really need is that the problem exists and the solution exists. That's it. And while I did still go to Halza because I wanted to pursue Islamic studies and I wanted to understand Islam in its depth, at the same time, look, if we just think about this advice from Sheikh Hanif for a moment, there is some truth in it. You don't need more knowledge than that. You know when something's wrong and you know when something's right. Allah speaks to you. He's a compass within your heart. He points you towards what is right and what is wrong. And when you identify a problem or a flaw, Allah has also given you the tools to correct it. And now that you've said it, I'm going to quickly just end with this poem from Imam Ali alayhi salam. Imam Ali, and you're familiar with this, but I'm going to end with this. He says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, دواؤك فيك وما تشعر. The cure is within you, but you don't perceive it. وَدَاؤُكَ مِنْكَ وَمَا تَنْظُرُ. And the pain is from you, but you don't see it. وَتَحْسَبُ أَنَّكَ جِرْمٌ صَغِيرٌ. And you think you're only a tiny entity. وَفِيكَ انطوى الْعَالَمُ الْأَكْبَرُ. But within you is the entire universe. وَأَنْتَ الْكِتَابُ الْمُبِينُ الَّذِي بِأَحْرُفِهِ يَظْهَرُ الْمُضْمَرُ. And you are the clear book through whose letters all that is invisible becomes visible and clear. I'd like you all to send a loud and boisterous salawat wherever you are, and to pray for the hastening of the zuhur of Imam al-Hujjah al-Qa'im al-Mahdi, ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu al-sharif. Allahumma